Good morning. I'm Paul Berman, and I am the Vice Provost for Online Education and Academic Innovation at the George Washington University. So this event is at least nominally under my purview, although the real credit for putting it together goes to Professor Lorena Barba. Yay, Lorena! Though I have to also thank P.B. Garrett, who's our Chief Technology Officer here at GW, and whose group in academic technologies threw in a lot of support, and also to my own assistant, Iris Ahn, who's out front making sure everything runs correctly, which for those of you who've ever put on conferences like that these things don't just happen. You know, the tags are there and they're in alphabetical order and the food is there, and you know, it's not just by magic, it's because someone puts in a lot of hours crossing things off checklists and so forth. So anyway, so I am actually going to announce a slight change to our schedule to begin with. So we were originally setting up the schedule so that at 10:30 we could have welcoming remarks from our provost, Steve Lerman, which is a weird time to have welcoming remarks, but we were working it around his schedule, but then his schedule changed, so he can't come and do welcoming remarks at all. So what we're going to do instead is, on the fly, is I'm going to talk to you for about 10 minutes to sort of set up some of my thoughts about all this. And then at 9:45, we'll have the real serious opening remarks, and then we'll be back on schedule for a break at 10:45 and so forth. So that's how we'll do it. So I have been Vice Provost for Online Education and Academic Innovation at GW for 3 years. So I'm going to finish my 3-year term January 15th of 2016, and then I will be going back to being a full-time faculty member in the law school at GW. So it's sort of a good moment for me to think about the 3 years that I've spent doing this and really immersing myself in this space. And I'm also likely to do some consulting work in the online space. So if any of you are interested in anything I have to say, I'm happy to help you or your institution in the future. But anyway, you know, in thinking about it, so GW has now 105 online degree and certificate programs. These are not massive open online courses. These are small, generally sort of 15-to-1 student-faculty ratio courses as part of degree programs where people pay tuition, they get full degrees, and so forth. And there are a lot of them, and they operate in a lot of different ways. We've had relationships with multiple different outside vendors. We've done course creation ourselves. We've done multiple platforms and so forth. And so it's really interesting. We've kind of run a natural experiment in a way throughout the university, and you know, just to kind of see what works. And I'm really interested and excited in the Open edX experiment and what it could become. So what we are a Blackboard university, by and large. We were the creators of Prometheus, which became Blackboard, so it's kind of embedded into the GW DNA, for better or worse. And so, you know, we've been committed to that. And so the question is sort of, what could Open edX become? And so we've launched, we thought we wanted to experiment, so we've launched a few MOOCs in Open edX, and we've been working on some kind of individual courses and things. But as I see the future, it seems to me that both an open source platform, one that universities can control, modify, brand themselves, that is not dependent on their entering into a long-term relationship with anybody, strikes me as an exciting model. And as I think about sort of what Open edX could be, you know, if I look at my portfolio across the university or somebody like me at another university, you've got online degree programs. You've got online, maybe free or low-cost non-degree programs. You've got maybe stackable certificate programs you want to create for students abroad. You've got hybrid courses you want to create on your campus. Because, of course, students are increasingly going to demand that. I was talking to someone earlier, and we were talking about the fact that, 5, 6, 7 years ago, students would go on a tour of the GW campus, and they'd say things like, do you have Wi-Fi everywhere? And if your answer was no as a university, it was A, bad because they wanted the Wi-Fi, and B, bad because it said something about your university and whether it was up to date and thinking of the future. If it's not already true, it's going to be true within a couple years that students, when they come on those same tours at GW and other universities, are going to say, can I take some of my courses or some of my classes online? And again, if your answer is no, that's going to be bad for your institution. And so, we need to think about sort of the whole panoply. At GW, we've got students, we're in DC, and we want you to do internships, and we want you to work on Capitol Hill, and we want you to do public policy projects and things like that. Well, a student who's doing that and taking advantage of everything GW has to offer is not going to want to come back and do a lecture on Wednesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when they could be in a hearing on Capitol Hill. So they're going to say, why can't that lecture be online? And we have to have an answer for that. And we can't do that if we're dependent on an outside vendor, because then we're going to lose tuition revenue for that course to the outside vendor, because they're going to charge us for that. So how are we going to have a single authoring tool, a single platform, a single sort of look and feel that will work for a number of these different use cases? How are we going to do it when we want to help some faculty do blended stuff and just put a couple of their classes online? We want some to be degree-based, we want some certificates, we want some free things, we want some courses that are just for our alumni. We want to do some things as development projects, we want to do some things internationally and so forth, and we want to control it. We want to have the analytics, we want to maintain the information, we want to be able to brand it ourselves, we want to be able to think of what learning objects we want to create and what interface we want to do, and then we want to customize it to all of those uses. We use Blackboard. It's not clear to me that Blackboard is going to be the way to do it, and it's not even clear to me that Canvas, although it's better than Blackboard in certain ways, is going to be the way to do it. Vendors are useful for certain things, for universities that, need to get stuff started and don't have capital, or in some cases specifically for marketing. But, in terms of the course creation and the platform and so forth, it's not clear to me that vendors are going to be the way to go. And so I'm excited about Open edX as it grows. So we have built 4 or 5 or so MOOCs in Open edX, and it's growing and it's getting better and better. And it seems to, as I imagine it, I could imagine it essentially becoming like a learning management system altogether, with a lot more flexibility and a lot more customization for each individual university. And frankly, I also think, and maybe this is too ambitious because it's hard to get universities to change, but as I see universities, one of our biggest problems is on the back-end registration and student information stuff, because PeopleSoft and Banner were not designed for an online environment where students are taking courses with multiple start dates, multiple length of time, with needing the flexibility, and those programs just simply don't do it. And so right now, we use Banner. Our registrar has to manually process on paper I believe it's something like 250 exceptions every week. Every week. And it's untenable. And as we get more and more, I said we've got 105 programs, we're going to have like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 students online, probably more. It's just going to be impossible. And you go to Banner and you say, how can you accommodate all of these things? And they've got sort of weird jerry-rigged workarounds that kind of sort of work. But if we were able to build, starting from Open edX, not just, the grading stuff and all the integrations that we need on the academic side, but also integrate that on the student services registration side. I know universities don't like switching big systems like that because the changeover costs are big, but I think they're going to increasingly become desperate. And you could imagine something like Open edX being a tool that becomes something that universities could use to solve multiple problems and to become a single integrated online campus, as opposed to lots of little departments creating little experiments using their own vendor and their own this and their own that, and kind of it all sort of getting jerry-rigged together. That's really exciting. And because it's open source and because people are still building it, we could build it however we want to as universities. We could say to engineers like Michael Amigo, who's been working with us at IBL Studios, there's Michael. We could go to Michael and we could say, design it this way. Or figure out a way to make this into more of an LMS. Or let's figure out a way to integrate it so that people would like the back-end services that we could provide to integrate it into our registration system. Figure out how to do that. And we could design that from our needs as a university, not from some vendor who designed it 15 years ago and is sort of trying to adapt it to still work today with thousands of lines of code and so forth. That's the exciting thing, it seems to me, about an open source ecosystem where universities can design it for themselves, and we don't need to have somebody who ex ante has designed it and we sort of kind of have to make it work for us. That's going to be fun. And I hope that even when I'm not vice provost, I will have the ability, either at GW or elsewhere, to work with universities to design that. Because that's really exciting, and it seems to me that's the point at which you can convince universities and convince faculty and convince departments that you can do this at really high quality level, because I think everyone in this room knows that you can do online education extraordinarily well or extraordinarily poorly. You can have 10 grainy videos and a couple multiple choice questions, or you can do serious online education. And so if we can convince them, yes, we can do this seriously, we've got a platform that supports what you want to do as an educator, the way you want to do it, it's not controlled by anybody else, you can keep the intellectual property, university is not going to take it, an outside entity is not going to take it, you can control the analytics. Then it seems to me that you can say we could actually have a top quality, state-of-the-art online campus that really does serious stuff and that is integrated on both the system side, the technology side, and the educational side. We're not there yet. I tell lots of people, they say, oh, you're doing online education, how do you think it's going? And I say, well, I started as a law professor in 1998 teaching legal issues surrounding the internet. And so I tell people online education is like the internet was in 1998, which is to say a huge number of smart people are working on it. The content is getting better and better. The technology is getting better and better. The business plans are still kind of in flux, Facebook hasn't been invented yet. We're still using Alta Vista as our search engine. You know, it's not quite there yet, but it's going to get there. Everybody knows it's going to get there. And nobody has the answer for what the model's going to be. And the big players now are almost certainly not going to be the big players 10 years from now. And that's exciting because it's all going to pop. And I've just seen over the last 3 years, the pedagogy is getting better, the instructional design thinking is getting better and better, the technology to do things is getting better and better, the bandwidth to do synchronous seminar conversations so that you can really tell professors you can do everything you do in the classroom with the light bulb moments where you challenge the students and you have the back and forth. You can do all of that online with no problem anymore. And it's only going to get better. That's really exciting. So that's what I want to be part of. And then the last thing that I want to be part of is the idea that somehow, through the combination of creating this, you can provide a quality education to a broader cross-section of the world's population. And we haven't solved that yet either, it seems to me. You know, the big MOOCs are good, and I'm glad they exist. I wouldn't say that's yet providing a quality education to a broad cross-section of the population for lots of reasons. Schools creating small-scale degree programs and charging top tuition dollar are also not providing a high-quality education to a broad cross-section of the population. But we're going to get there, I think, because somehow we're going to build the systems and build the business models where we actually can make it work, where universities will see, or maybe it won't be universities, somebody will see that they can make money at large scale and do quality at large scale, and therefore bend the cost curve and educate people that we have never been able to educate in this world because we've had a bunch of top quality on-campus institutions that educate a teeny sliver of the world's population. And just think how transformative it would be if we could do much more than that. And that's going to be exciting to watch, and I am convinced it is going to happen in the next 20 or 30 years. And open source systems like OpenEdX and what it grows into will be a key part of that transformation. So thank you all for being here today. Enjoy the conversation and build the future.